I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
I tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
Please, Lord, forgive them. They try to hold back and chillin' like they ain't know it was written. Break every chain. Wanna free my people from mental prisons. With your eyes on the sparrow, I know we'll narrow divisions. Hope is the float to keep us afloat just as you envision. Faith to erase the pain from all of our people slain. Destined for change, actions to back up your spoken name. When they throw dirt on ours, we use it to plan game. When it rains, we go greater together, no matter the weather. Trust these dark days, gonna get better. Know that love will be the light to guide all our endeavors. And even if the tide should rise, we'll ride it forever. Why? We are mighty, we'll fight for our lives, cause we're dying to live. Future is ours, the timing is now. Black and we proud, we saying it loud. We gave it our all, feel so much more to give. We breaking down all the walls. I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon'
I
rise
tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
Never backing down for the cause. Try to put our life on pause, cause we move in the image of God. No matter the hate that's spoken, our spirits remain unbroken. The divine man says you can't count us out. We are the answer. From the youth to the elders, ain't what you can tell us. Style and brilliance of mind, heart is bright as sunshine. Warrior spirits alive, so no, we won't be denied. So vibration is high and the frequency so angelic, like
Rise up. People, come on. Rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Ooh.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise
Tell
up.
them we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up.
I know these times won't last, even though they've been tough. Just let them know my people been had enough. Tell them we gon' rise up.
We gon'
I
rise
tell them
up.
we gon' rise up.
We gon' rise up. Rise up. Rise up. Oh, rise up.
Indeed, rise up, family. You already know what it is. Monday night. It's Monday night, so it's time for Soundbytes International Radio. You better be tuning in. All right, African consciousness is the claim.
One world is the aim.
Absolutely, bringing the conversations pertinent to our diasporic landscape. You,
And you. Give thanks.
all over the globe. All right, we're trying to heal our diasporic landscape. You know how we doing. So of course I'm Hasirka Nefra, and this is
Nefra to my auntie Ra.
yes, indeed. So make sure you tuned in and tapped in Soundbytes right now, family. We are live, of course, on Facebook and on YouTube. So make sure you tuning in on both. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Soundbytes International Radio on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to that channel. Try to get the subscriber base up. And of course, as always, make sure you're following and liking us on the Book of Faces and Soundbytes INTO Radio. So make sure you tune in there as well. So we're live here. Make sure you share the broadcast, join the conversation, join the comments. We got a little late start, so we're going to be on pretty brief tonight. But we're going to tap in and talk about what we talk about, right? Because it's an ongoing process, right? So we wanted to just tap into the conversation around this whole culture of capitalism. We've been talking, Nefra and I've been talking about it quite a bit on a personal level, past like a little bit now. I mean, for a long time, but specifically, but the past few days, it's kind of like, we're looking at the nature of capitalism, the culture of capitalism, and how it impacts African people, right? African people, in here and abroad, here in the U.S. and our continental Africans as well, particularly in the U.S., and kind of this culture of what capitalism has brought to the space, right? When you think of when we talk about village and we think about, exchange and barter and economics of a system or economics of a culture, we want to talk about going back to the roots of what that really looks like. We look at the idea of the exchange being what's of equal value, so to speak, based on, so it could be skill level, it could be resources that's available, from village to village, tribe to tribe, what have you. Making that available, right, to as an exchange. Never mind some particular construct of, like, talk about capitalism at their bare bones, like the idea of money and all that stuff.
Right.
Like, there was no, it wasn't really about that. Like, the exchange could have been, shells. The exchange could have been livestock. The
Something
exchange could
of
have been
value.
something of value. There could have been livestock. It could have been, I'm a carpenter. I help you build your house. You're a baker. You can bake pies for the week or whatever, or you're a chef and, like, cook whatever. All those things, keeping that type of mentality in mind of sharing of one's resource or gifts or time or talents, as a means of transaction to help build a better community, for those around us. And but you got the idea of capitalism as was introduced, through essentially through this matrix, through this idea of white centered consciousness, this idea of the strategic maneuvering over the course of centuries to put oneself in the forefront of everything, to put whiteness at the forefront. That's why we say white centered consciousness. The idea of whiteness as this echelon piece, that should be at the center of everyone's conversation, the center of the center of everyone's conversation, the center of everyone's thought process, the center of everyone's standards of living, right? Is put forth in this way to kind of essentially battle this idea of the survival of the fittest, this idea of, really looking at, we're 12-13% of the global population. We need to find a way to make ourselves the top dog, top brass of everything that's taking place. For whatever reason, that's the conversation. That's what's been implemented by, the Euro-Gentile mindset, to put themselves at the forefront, and in the space of colonialism and colonizing, these different countries and continents all across the globe, and and imparting brutality and violence and genocide and rape and pillage and plundering, all these things, to show this brute force as that was the go-to mechanism for control. And then to maintain control, the implementation you have of this idea of this transactional nature of capitalism, of this, there has to be some contract in place. Not only this contract in place that shows this transaction between goods and services and products and what do you call it? Like products, whether it be actual tangible products, commerce, or people as products, right? People as property, right? Yeah, that's where I was looking for, property. And those particular exchanges, like putting a particular type of currency to it, define the value of that currency depending on where you are in the world, and of course making, in this U.S. space, the top dollar, the end all be all, the one you should be looking forward to, next to pounds or what have you, and more recently euros, is putting that in place. And then now that's defining, okay, does this culture have enough of that to get by? If they don't, then they're just at the bottom rung. This culture has enough of it. Being that they've set the stage, you have white-centered culture where whiteness is at the top of the brass, utilizing the capitalistic structure to maintain control, to maintain power over other people. Why? To put forth this idea that they're it, right? And the smoke and mirrors of we're actually the minority of the globe, right? But really putting forth this idea that we're the majority, this idea of the majority versus minority, those conversations that go along with capitalism as well, hierarchies, the castes, the particular systems of the wealth, the levels of wealth, lineage, all those different things like that. And now what we see is the wealth gap, the 1%, all those things are coming to play over the course of history of what capitalism has done, right? Because if you put this in place, eventually this lie, so to speak, of this needs to happen, this structure needs to happen in order to govern humanity, which is not true, right? Humanity left to its devices would just do what humanity does, right? Just like the earth left to its devices would do what the earth does. Nature in itself will continue to move forward as it does, as we are the shepherds here of this place, this space, right?
But there is a reality inside of the defining property as to why people believe capitalism is what it is.
You say that.
There is a reality because initially it was supposed to be that the people owned the rights to their goods and services, as opposed to other countries where everything was owned by the government and then divvied out to the people. So, but that only worked when you were able to create spaces for people to not participate, because some people, there's like a maneuver that created certain pockets of people that had the stuff and the goods and services. So there was supposed to be fail safes to keep one particular set of people, one particular group of individuals from accumulating all the wealth and all the stuff and all the goods. And at this point, it's gotten to the point where this group of people who've gotten all the stuff and the goods are now more powerful than government, and they can now orchestrate the government to suit their needs, which it's like the concept of capitalism would have worked if it was more centralized with a broader variety of people, as opposed to just this small silo of specific individuals who at this point have been using very dysfunctional means to garner control under the guise of capitalism.
Right.
At this point, there is no actual need for the capitalism when you start talking about money and exchange, because now everything is enter. 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 Nothing is not real. The tangibility of the actual, there was money being had, whatever currency was being used to exchange goods and services, it's not really necessary now. So along with capitalism being viable initially, people don't want to talk about, I don't want to talk about that because, I'm talking to some young people. If I had an idea and I wanted to exploit my idea, I should be able to go out there and exploit my idea and be able to have an opportunity to be at the top of the brass too. Right, but what are the odds? What is the calculations and statistical data? There was a brother who did a study on the basketball players, since everyone is dangling this golden carrot of becoming an NBA player. I think it was something like, 4 million may play basketball, maybe 400,000 will play high school ball, and I think it was something like 40,000 will play college ball, and I think it was something like maybe 400 will go pro, and then something like 4 will actually make it to the NBA. We started with a number of something like 4 million, and you ended up with 4. So what is actually the statistical data of the reality? Not to say you shouldn't have a dream, right? But then there are certain things where the culture of capitalism has manipulated people's ability to think rationally. The culture of capitalism has it where we'll create confusion just to create profits.
Right.
We'll create a lie and we'll solidify this lie across universities and professors and education in order to sustain the upkeep of this lie to continue to push industry.
Right.
Which has now happened. Food itself, we talk about, because we was actually recently talking about this in terms of our raw vegan menu that we have. And they won't tell you directly that eating a raw vegan life is better for you, because then you'll take out the cattle industry. You'll start to chip away at the cattle industry. You can't patent something that grows naturally from the ground. So they synthetically produce oranges or orange juice or a formula for orange flavor or an orange color. These are things that can be patented under the guise of the culture of capitalism. You can patent the color of orange, you can patent the flavor of orange, you can patent the chemical composite of an orange, but not an orange. But if I tell you that if you eat raw vegan, to get the optimal amount of nutrients, that would chisel away at these other sectors of capitalism, of means funnels, what they call them in business, of generating capital. So they tell you things, and they have a whole lot of mechanisms, and there's many people of high education that regurgitate these things because out of white center consciousness at some institute of education or some university, et cetera, of higher thought and accolade, et cetera, now says that this is the way to do it. Remember, there was the same thing was said to support the culture of capitalism. oh, those African people that we found, those African people that we've been visiting for thousands of years and becoming educated by them, they're no longer human. Because we're going to make them slaves. We're going to enslave those people. So now we're going to create a whole lot of science to sustain the fact that they're not human. And then we're going to back it up by your self-interest and your desire to be a good person as a Christian. And now we're going to build up and pad all of these different fluff areas to make sure that we support this context that these people are no longer human. And the unfortunate thing about that is, regardless to how many doctors you see, how many actors and singers and babies and news anchors and crossing guards and school teachers that you see, the looming consciousness of the culture of capitalism, of these people not being human, still thrives. Right. It thrives in everyday nondescript John and Jane Q. public white people, civil servants who become cops. These people are not at the round table. So how has the culture of capitalism impacted their psyche to the fact that the looming consciousness of African people be getting subpar healthcare and service at the... I just had a sister told us that she had to go to the doctor and like really hustle and tussle with this doctor about her vitamins. Because, you know, he's telling her one thing and she's like, no, I don't need that. I need this. No, you don't need that. You need this. But he's not giving proper advice, and he's an MD, and he's probably been practicing for 25 years. Right? But see, now you as a person in a society where you should be able to go to a medical professional and feel like we trust that they should have your best interests at heart, but now that there's so much misinformation that pads the culture of capitalism, right? This is the essay, right, that I've created here. A culture of capitalism that has now padded these concepts that are contrary to basic human experiences. So this is where we are, and people themselves, because we're so self-absorbed and we're interested in what's good for us, this concept of an individual and this American experiment. And I don't know what people's gauge for getting better, because I hear people of African descent all the time saying things are getting better, things are better than they were. First of all, people should have never been enslaved. That should have never actually came up. See, the problem is we've now normalized so much dysfunction that we have jaded our ability. I don't care what level of academic achievement these folks or individuals are sitting. Right. There is a sense of cognitive dissonance in the consciousness that is a tear in the psyche that does not allow basic rationale and process and analysis to come into the space at all. Right. We are not able to contemplate the fact that people should have never been enslaved. That fact is a problem. If people were not enslaved, there are other realities that would have been created because other realities were being created. So if you take it back to the beginning of where the ripple occurred, where the dysfunction occurred, and now we bring it forward, and now we've been trying to sustain these ways of being and this living that we've had. It is the culture. What is a culture? What is culture? Not culture like office culture. Not like a religious or community culture, or a small group culture, or community culture, or this particular area of, this particular area of Europe, and that particular area of Australia, and this particular area of Alaska has different cultural expressions. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the cultural expression of capitalism. How does it impact the way we think? Right. Like, is there something that you associate as seems upside down, but because it's capitalism, it's okay? The sale of alcohol. Right. More people die of alcoholism and liver disease, but it's legal to sell alcohol because it's capitalism. Right.
Alcohol, cigarettes.
Doctors actually used to endorse the smoking of cigarettes, to sell cigarettes for the tobacco industry. Mm-hmm. That small group of individuals who have industry, who want to make money on the guise of capitalism and wield their own finance resource, etc., want to sell cigarettes, so they kick back under the guise of payola to doctors and incentivize them to give the general public bad information, so that your simple mind, because there's a ripple and tear in the way you process and analyze information, because mostly everything you do is based on how you feel about it and your particular motivation around something that was not contemplated based in logical rationale. What is actually good for a society? What does actually demonstrate progress? Creating electric cars? I mean, you know, we could have run cars on corn oil. We could run cars on sugar. We could run cars on sugar cane and hemp. So an electric car is okay, I guess. We have wind turbines. I mean, we have water, I guess that's cool, right? But I mean, in terms of what's good for society, what is our rationale as to what is good?
Well, I think we also gotta look at what's been put in place we've been told this is what's necessary. And then it's like, okay, now you've been told this is what's necessary in order to function. Now you have to implement all the pieces and tools over time to keep that thing functioning or advance it further. And then what are the implications of ripple effects of that as a result, right? When you got like, now, okay, here's a car, and now it's like more people have to get cars, and now more people have to get cars, and you got more gas emissions affects ozone layer. Now how do we work to deal with that? You got bigger factories. You got it compounds to these bigger situations. Now you say, oh, you get the electric cars now. Now it's more people get electric cars, but now more people have cars. Now there's right. Traffic, and there's density in certain spaces because more roadways, and then now you got let's constrict the roadways, more bike lanes, and that's how we combat this thing. And these pseudo solutions that are put in place for problems that this is caused in the first place, right? So that's like looking at a virus to try to tell you how to cure yourself from it. Like, it doesn't make any sense because it's going to put more things in place that are going to steer you off from the fact that you need to actually destroy this thing, right? And this thing being like what the Matrix stands as a producer of dysfunction, producer of deep destruction, a producer of this these control and power dynamics over people, while telling the people that they have the best interest at heart of the people, right? So you have these things, these pieces put in place for the sake of profit, right? You have these, like Neff mentioned, you got the doctors that are just doing what's being told versus doing what's right? And then you have these league of doctors, you got these league of cops that are put in place, and you got these people that believe that they're joining these factions to do something right, and then they realize they're becoming part of another club that's keeping up the dysfunction and the brutality of the system of what capitalism creates. And capitalism is saying like this: look, you want your job in this system, or we're going to take you out. So you want to make your money, this is what you're going to do. You're in here, there's no turning back now. Now what are you going to do? Is it going to be this, or is it going to be that? So now it's creating these structures of ultimatums of how you should live your life, and your well-being is at stake. So the capitalism, the structure of what capitalism has come to be, has put people in various spaces at gunpoint of their living experience, right? Because now it's like you're in this space, in the pressure cooker. Now you're in this space, it's either or, and someone has to lose. Capitalism, as it stands, the structure, this culture that we're living in now, as it stands, is a culture of competition, of win-lose. Someone has to win. I have to win. You have to lose in order for these things to work. And this is just the way it is. And you hear people say it all the time, it's just the way it is. It's become so long programmed and conditioned that people just accept that things are to go wrong or to not be good enough, or there's a modicum of something that can't fully go right. There has to be something to fall off. There's always going to be something that has to fall off. It can never be just completely right or completely good or completely cordial within a relationship or completely a respectable space. And when
those are markers, implanted markers. They're like the power of suggestion,
right?
And because it's like a game of, not really a game of telephone, but if you repeat something more than once, you begin to believe it.
Right.
Right. You start to drink the Kool-Aid if you keep saying it.
Right.
If enough people now, social media is now the conversation of telephone, right?
Terrible.
Social media is the act. So it's not no longer who can do a thing, it's how many people like you. You may be ineffective entirely, but if enough people like you, you've been crowned such and such. Really? How is that helpful? And these are things that are a part of the culture of capitalism now. As long as...
Now you're talking about social capitalism. Social capital.
social
What's your
capital
credibility?
in terms
What's your,
that
you know?
doesn't. But the problem is that doesn't make you credible. It just means that you're popular. It
Right.
just means that a lot of people see you. Doesn't mean that you're effective at what you do. It just means that you're good at attracting people and appeasing people and maybe appealing to something. And a lot of times I realize that a lot of people come together in community unity and support based around dysfunction, based around misery, based around pain. If we have the same
social
dysfunctions,
deficits.
if we have the same issues or shortcomings, or if you don't hold me accountable, then we're good. If you challenge me, or if you don't subscribe to the things that I subscribe to, then I'm rejecting that space. And now that has become a conscious effort around what's credible and what's not credible. That's not a fact, that's an opinion. An opinion is like an asshole, everybody has one. But a fact is that this particular thing doesn't really work in terms of progress for humanity. Not being able to catalog whether or not a thing is efficient, whether or not a thing actually contributes and makes, because they contribute to what? What are we trying to grow? What are we trying to create? A lot of folks just get it how they live. They just do what they need to do based on their feelings, based on their opinion, based on their quote unquote, one man says, of his preferences. No, you only do what you can do that is in support of this, and this. Mm-hmm. That's it. If this, and this supports creating community, connection, unity, people having mutual respect and respecting people's space, respecting people's, not people's right to choose, because people can choose to be alcoholics, which is not helpful to society, right? Mm-hmm. People can choose to, take drugs that makes them ineffective parents. People can choose this, right? Because they say things in this capitalistic culture, because things like that are things that are mental implants in the capitalist culture. Everybody has a right to choose. You can choose to be a crackhead. Your children will then be without a parent, because then you are now an ineffective parent. If you are on the worst rung of drug addiction, which some people are, selling everything out of the house, even selling their children, which, coming up, big people in the group home, I remember a young lady who told me that her mother used to sell her to the drug man at 9 years old so she could get high. So you can choose to be a person who's a drug abuser. You can choose to succumb to your circumstances, but that's not necessarily in support of these three things that are going to be helpful to unity, community, sustainability, taking compassion and stewardship over the land and its resources. Those things that sustain us. Us taking care of the earth helps the earth take care of us. It's cyclical. But the culture of capitalism says we're not going to stop draining oil from the earth because it's good for profits. Mm-hmm. We're gonna just say that there's no such thing as climate change. We've never been on the planet before. We really don't know what the long-term effects of what we are doing is, but we're going to just hope that capitalism is going to create solutions for this in the future so that when we jack stuff up, we know how to fix it. Really? I don't have that kind of faith in you.
Never mind that you pulled that out of your ass.
It was a gamble. It's a crapshoot. Right. It's a gamble. We'll just hope that our best and brightest will come up with some solutions. And since we got microscopes all over the planet searching for everybody's greatest good, we're everywhere just usurping from whoever, wherever, whenever we can, because we're busy creating so many dysfunctional cultural impacts within our cultural experience of capitalism that people and their basic interactions with one another has created such grief. There are people that are struggling with all kinds of mental health and emotional circumstances because their circumstances are getting the best of them. Within the culture of capitalism, there's circumstances. They're having circumstantial depression, situational depression, because things are not quite going right.
Right. And that gets in the way of progress. That gets in the way of personal progress.
That gets in the way.
Whether the individual or for the family or for the village or for the community. That gets in the way of progress, right? Because you're too busy in the pressure cooker thinking about how can I survive this circumstance versus how can I strategize and create something for a thriving community, for us to thrive and throw out those those tactics and brainstorm and be with the people
Mhm.
on that, or be with yourself on that. Right? There's no time for that because you're too busy worrying about paycheck to paycheck, because capitalism says you have to work and do this and pay these bills and do these and X, Y, and Z, and all these things that have been put into place to keep capitalism running. The idea of profits over people running, that's more important, right? You got retail folks that you know, you can't leave your shift on time because you have to cover the person that's late, or you have to you can't take a break, or you can't take off, you can't take any time off, you can't take any PTO, you can't because we need you. Because we need you with
we need a body,
$10 or $7 an hour. We need a body in the space to move things
we just
around.
Need a body.
Never mind creating a better culture. Never mind creating a better raising wages to create a better morale, because we know those wages, those higher wages mean I can actually afford my way of living. I can hold my ish together. I can hold my life together. My bills can be paid. My rent can be paid. I don't have to worry about it and figure and trying to do something trifling, which leads to for those people in dire straits, which leads to criminality. Which leads to I gotta do what I gotta do, and ultimately leads to prison. All these things, it's a trickle down of creating these lead-ins, essentially back to slavery. Because you look at prison, once you go to prison, that's it, right? That's what
slavery.
That's a new age slavery. Through the 13th Amendment, that's still a part of the system. Now you can be used for free labor, right? So it's all a mechanism, whether it's consciously or subconsciously being done. It trickles that way back. Can you survive in this fuckery that we created to and last long enough to have the money and have the big time job, big hot shot job, and come into these white spaces and come into the suburbs and make all the big money? Can you last long enough doing that, or will you crack under the pressure of realizing that racism still exists and oppression still exists, and we think it's cool that we love your Black culture, your African culture, we don't love you, and that you are actually expendable, and if needed, we can drop you at a dime if it meant moving the profits forward for this productivity forward. That you are just a body and just a number in a space, and that's what matters most. Because if we drop you today, we can try to hire somebody else in the next instant. Never mind that you're dealing with depression or dealing with the struggles of that you can't make ends meet because of this job. No, we need productivity. We need this thing to be going. We need this machine to keep moving. And if you're the cog that's slowing down, never mind the fact that we never oiled you and we never gave you the proper attention and assessment and regular checkups to make sure you're moving and running smoothly. No, we're just gonna get rid of you and replace you with a new one. And this is what that culture creates.
It's just a body.
It's just a body, and you're moving forward. You don't care about your tears. You don't care about your pains, your struggles, your diabetes, your family. You don't care about your anxiety. You don't care about none of it. Your dog. No, none of that stuff matters to these spaces. And the profit over people portion is what puts the emotion aside. Because why? I got this money to do what I need to do. I can't care about this employee that's 3 levels down.
And they tell these employees or these employers,
as we never admit anything. About Labor Day, by the way.
Never admit anything. Like never take responsibility, which is so quintessentially American. Never accept responsibility for anything. What kind of people do you have in your space and in your world where your people are incapable or lack maturity to be able to confidently, earnestly take responsibility for something, oversight, mistake, short-sightedness, breakdown that they caused? People literally today get angry when they have been the one to make a mistake. You made the mistake. Crazy. Why don't you address it?
It's crazy.
You don't have the ability, the faculties, the maturity to address a mistake that you made.
You got to think about that emotional maturity.
That's a problem.
If you've made a trespass against someone, especially if you're supposed to be moving in relation with those people, if you made the trespass, then it's your responsibility to understand where that person's coming from when they felt that, when they're impacted, right? Does the relationship matter or not? So you can't be like, this is I don't like what you're doing. I don't care. I don't like how I'm feeling right now. So I'm gonna be out and never address the problems. That doesn't work, right? But that's the culture that's been created to never have anyone take responsibility. And everyone that's fallen down that rung, that trickled down in that system, has followed suit. They don't even know why. You're just doing it because it's been enculturated into a system of not questioning
It's the
system.
culture of capitalism.
So I'm just, if this is what we're doing, all right, this is what we have to do to survive.
It feels good
this
too, because at least I ain't got to take responsibility for jacking up.
Look, the system said so.
And that's the default. The default says people are
Simone
going to go
legal.
along with this because with this is their out. And the mind and psychology is always going to find a place for it to thrive and be safe. So if being safe means I don't have to confront no jack up that I do, I don't really have to be responsible for nothing or nobody but myself and how I feel. See, and then you have people who devalue the lives of brothers and sisters, community and neighbors. There is the breach. There is the breach. We should be able to dial this back. But see, the issue is people don't want to take responsibility for other people because of the culture of capitalism. The culture of capitalism. We all like to talk about. I don't love to, but it's unfortunate when I see people and they just on the mic talking. They legit are just talking. They legit do not want to take responsibility for nobody else. They legit do not want to actually do no work. None. There's a short-term conversation and there's a long-term conversation. There are certain tactics that work for the right now minute. And then there are certain tactics and strategies that work for the long-term effect. And because we have a community of such underdeveloped social activities because of the culture of capitalism, and we were never actually taught, some people realize that they have to make decisions for the first time in their late 40s, 50s years old, 60 years old. For the first time. There's no reference point for a lot of what our people, some of us are coming awake. And there's no reference point for none of the awakeness that is occurring. It's not in our society, and people are having meltdowns.
Right. People are also having meltdowns on top of the idea that because we're such a scarcity-minded state with this system, is that this decision is the decision. That's it. And it's
the
over.
only one.
It's the only
it
one
doesn't
I can
go
make.
right.
Not I make this decision and I make a mistake.
Maybe
okay, I'll make another
might,
decision.
maybe
I'll try again. Like I can do something different. I can reinvent myself at 50, at 60, even at 70. There's people there's a bodybuilder that started bodybuilding at 70. Woman. Like it's the system. That's why you got people that still talk about like, oh, you're hitting that big 3-0, oh, that big 4-0, you're getting up there. Oh, why are you still doing that? It's a young man's game. Why are you still doing that at this age? Why don't you act your age? What's your age? There's a lot of people that are 40 and 50 that act like they're 10. You're getting older but not growing up. Like
they're growing up. Like they're getting bigger but not growing up.
They're not growing up at all. You're just getting older with time.
But there's something that has done this. There's power in acknowledging that, you know what? I'm one of the ones who got big and didn't grow up. I'm Dr. So-and-so. I got 3,000 straps on me. I got all kind of bars all over me. I done got all kind of recognition and accolades. You could tout me for the next 25 minutes without taking a breath. So what? But guess what? I got bigger, but I really didn't grow up. Because I don't have no faculties in personal development. I don't have any faculties in interpersonal skills. I really don't have no integrity. I'm actually pretty scared to be seen. I'm terrified. Because if somebody see me, I'm going to be so embarrassed. Because I've been stunting like I had it all together all this time. In what? This capitalist makeshift illusion? This capitalist, fake, fugazi illusion of experience? Because this is not living. Human beings do not thrive in this kind of environment because this is not living. People have entirely made dysfunctions normal. And if those things are missing, people are looking for the confusion. People meet me, they're looking for the ball to drop. No, they meet me, they're waiting.
It's too quiet. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what it is. Oh my God, it's too quiet. Somebody turn the radio on. Somebody create some madness. Friction. Somebody create some friction, some madness. Somebody create some discomfort in the space, and I'll be comfortable. This is what we as a people have become accustomed to. It's too quiet in here. Let me turn on some noise because I don't want to hear myself think, and I'm uncomfortable sitting in silence with other people. Sister told me recently she was uncomfortable feeling happy. You know what?
That's crazy time.
Inside of madness, this is where mental health breakdowns occur. These are parts of the culture of capitalism. These are the residues and manifestations of what is created that is not human, that does not create good human interactions. So when we talk about alleviating crime, when we talk about creating community and unity and things like that, we really want to address the dysfunctions that are in our space and give people freedom and give people safety and options and access to truth. But when you standing there as a person who's standing in, and you're not giving people the truth, you're standing there as the authority, and these people know that they may never achieve your illusion that you created for them to see, because the reality is, remember, you got to go in that back room and be like, I'm a fake. And I know it. I hope nobody never see it. See, that's a conversation that you're really having. But the people out here who are trying to grapple for some light, you're showing them an illusion, and it's inauthentic, and they know they can't achieve it. So that creates more problems in the space. That doesn't create freedom. That doesn't make people free. That doesn't allow people access to choices. We really want to give our people access to the ability to expand in authenticity. Because within this society, white-centered consciousness does not create healthy, fully functional, animated Africans. So therein lies the culture of capitalism. Therein lies the manipulation in the Matrix and the Wiz and Oz and all this, the Matrix, whatever you want to call it, the rabbit hole, Alice in Wonderland, whatever metaphor you want to use for this illusion experience that so many people are so deeply committed to, because it is all that they know for their own existence. They have never developed the capacity to experience a dream outside of these madness, these walls. We listen to Dr. Ray Haig. He said, this is the circle of your sphere of information. There's a lot of information outside of this sphere but this is where you live. This one little space right here is where you live. And I don't care how many bars they have. I don't care how many accolades they have. I don't care how long you tout their credentialing. They still live in this bubble right here with you. Right here with you. They're in the same bubble with you. And this is where crime, hatred, community violence, and harm, and the trail of broken hearts, this is where it's created at, right inside of here, because this is not a space for thriving Africans. Thriving Africans have a spiritual frequency that reaches into the cosmos, and it needs space to expand. It needs space, one, to heal, and it needs direction. I'm talking about creating energy without words. A being that no one has to call you out. It is a way of being. It is a frequency. Because we're talking about African in relationship to our living experience. And today we're discussing the culture of capitalism. So an African's experience in relationship to their living environment, which is the culture of capitalism. To identify those things which are unnatural to your way of being. Where you get to take the culture and step outside of your sphere of consciousness, which is white-centered consciousness in here, because it is imperative that it keeps you in this sphere so that it can maintain control of you. And the other 50 million Africans that's here in the U.S. and the 1.4 billion that are in the continent of Africa and globally. And we don't even know if the numbers are legit. We just know that those are the numbers that they gave us. So this is something for us to consider as a community.
Absolutely.
What we subscribe to and what we have chosen to subscribe to, and whether or not it's good or bad for us. Right. We don't actually need money to live, though. We really don't. We could choose something different. We don't have to cut people off. We don't have to step over people. We don't have to harm people. We don't have to grapple for meaning and worthiness in our society. Because as an African, you were born into the world at your highest possibility. You came in the world from day one at your highest possibility.
Right. It doesn't have to be idealistic. It could literally be a reality if people choose in. It has to be a willingness to participate, right? It has to be a willingness to participate. You look at the social structures that are in place now that have us thinking, how can we live without these things now?
Oh, no.
We actually can.
Yes.
Right? Because there was a time in our history where that was a possibility and it was a strength there, right? If people got sick or what have you, there was always remedies or something there. There's always something available in nature within the earth as it stood as a viable solution to whatever ailment or problem humanity or any other species has, and it keeps going. Right? We're out here paying to be and live by the virtue of someone else's control mechanism. Why? That doesn't make any sense. We actually can thrive. We just have to choose in, buckle down, and let go.
But people are not accustomed to being mildly uncomfortable. We've gotten so accustomed to alleged piecemeal privileges that we think we have. I mean, and at the end of the day, if you're in the Matrix and if you're doing fairly decent in the Matrix, it's a wrap. If you've been incentivized properly in this Matrix, you are all right with the status quo. Period. You're just all right with it.
Yeah.
You know, and you will continue to feed poison to your community. Of course you will, because you've been incentivized and you drinking the Kool-Aid, and you can tell yourself lies to make it all matter, make it all worthy, but it really isn't. There really is a society and a life. This is the white woman gonna tell me it's a place for black people in white society. I could not believe she had the audacity with a straight face with her black boyfriend to tell me this. Well, you know, I do see there's a great place for black people in white society. What?
White society.
I don't know. She sounded like she was from North and South. Remember that show, The North and South? I was like, what the hell? Women, what are you doing? You live in 1832 in a white society.
There is society.
What are you talking about? There's only society. The reality that white-centered consciousness has put itself in the front of the room has all been a lie. And through force, it's a manipulation. People who have a white cultural experience do not naturally, just based on some divine order, get the front and center. No, they do not. They do not just quite naturally get the front and center because they said so. Have not earned that right, because I have a metrics that demonstrate that fail. That's what I'm coming up with. What are you coming up with? Right? So your bad outweighing your good is kind of an issue here. Because I'm talking from an African-centered prism. I'm talking about how have you taken care of the planet? I'm talking about how have you nurtured humanity? How have you supported forwarding the cohesion and unification of people? That's what I'm talking about. So I'm getting fail all up and down this card here. I don't know what you got. I'm not concerned with big banks and big gold and big diamonds, big high-priced rocks and children, slave labor, children digging in caves. I'm not concerned with that. I'm not concerned with the trains going across the country to carry goods so some people can make some money. You literally could have stayed in your own community, your horse-drawn carriage. As far as it could take you, was sufficient. There really wasn't a need for you to travel 3 hours from New York to Florida. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't necessary. It was not necessary. No, they told you it was. That's game. They implanted a need so that they could create commerce. But it really was not necessary. If you lived in Alaska and strawberries did not grow in Alaska, then you just did not get strawberries. Oh, yeah, you just didn't get them.
Right.
Period. You lived in Alaska. Mangoes don't grow in Alaska. You just don't get mangoes.
That's what it is. You get what goes, we get what comes there.
The nature, the environment takes care of itself. There are other supplements for you to get vitamin C in Alaska. There are other ways for you to get vitamin C in Alaska. Right? It was no need for planes to travel and be able to carry 10,000, 100,000 pounds missiles to drop and kill people and children. There was no necessity for any of that. Heard on WBAI the other day, the biggest business is the military. Military eats the majority of all budgets everywhere. Like there's nothing in the American budget that spends more money. Used to be NASA. The military. So that we can bully other people's countries and people can wear and be excited about wearing uniforms and being a part of a crew that goes to bring harm mostly to innocent people, civilians, someplace else, who really don't have nothing to do with what their government is doing either. How you feel about that? Like, the culture of capitalism is quite psychotic and dysfunctional.
Yep.
And we as a people are every day getting up and we just in our little bubble silo and I will feel good and experiment trying to, oh, you know, I don't want to take it. That's just too deep. That's just too deep. Like, what kind of cycle are you that you can't even function and think about the well-being of another human being? That's too deep for you. It's too deep for you to make some life decisions where you do not shop beyond your own local area. See, they won't have to fly goods from here to wherever if no one over there needed it. If everybody over there stopped needing whatever they were sending from over here to over there, that carbon footprint wouldn't even be a conversation. It wouldn't. Trust me, the culture of capitalism, they would create a problem over there if they had to flood that area. They would do it because they've done it already. They would create confusion. They would create a need. Whatever the madness would need to be, they would do that to create industry because this is the culture of capitalism. But critical mass is what's needed to create a social shift. Critical mass. There must be enough people because right now there's enough people doing dysfunctional stuff. This is why we continue to create more of the same. I really want you to know, you don't have to take my word for it, but your participation in the culture of capitalism is what continues to contribute to creating more of the same. So every day that you continue to be powerless, every day that you continue to say there's no choices and I don't know what to do, but you really ain't trying to find out,
right.
And you feel like
solutions,
buying yourself new clothes or taking a trip or doing something, just hold it together because you're built that way. Like this stuff right here, this is low-hanging fruit right here for an African. It's legit low-hanging fruit. You got situations in your life that are creating dysfunction because enough people are not choosing to participate in creating a different outcome. We need to get more people willing to contribute to a different outcome.
Yeah.
That's our job. And I don't mean going out here and being in people's face. This is our means of doing it. This is what we do it at. There's many other different things that we do, but this is our way of having the African go to meeting where we discuss these certain types of things, and the information is there and available to you, and it's in a space you never say you never heard it because you heard it here. It won't be many places that you will hear it. I can tell you that. Somebody gonna say something cool that sounds clever because they always do, but it's not gonna quite be because an African-centered consciousness is some work to acquire. It is some work to acquire a fully functional, animated, African-centered consciousness. And it requires for you to be different. It's not just something you talk about. It is something you do, and then it becomes something, a way that you vibrate. It becomes a way to be. That's the place we should all be trying to get to, not the posturing. It doesn't matter what kind of clothes you're wearing or what hair do you have. Being an upright, fully functional and animated African that vibrates in African is the goal. Okay. Because that is where you started. That's the place where you begun. In the beginning. When you became, that's how you became. That's how you came into the world space. Anything other than that is low-hanging fruit. You can settle for it, but that's up to you. That's a choice, I guess.
Yeah.
This is the culture of capitalism.
Yeah. It's dysfunctional and crazy.
It is indeed.
Yeah. So, Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. How we do. Came on late tips. Want to talk about this really quick. Just check in with this conversation. Tap in on Monday night. But you know how we do. So of course, remember once again, make sure you subscribe to us at Soundbytes International Radio on YouTube. And please, let's get the subscribers up. Share with your folks and subscribe to the channel. We are live on YouTube and Facebook once again. And make sure you follow us and like us on Facebook, Soundbytes INTR Radio. You can also follow us on Instagram, Soundbytes International Radio. And follow our past episodes via podcast style, audio style, on Soundbytes International Radio on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can take that with you wherever you go and hit that repeat button. and check in with those conversations. So again, it's Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. African consciousness to claim.
The world is the aim.
Absolutely. So thank y'all for tapping in with us really quick. If you missed the broadcast, feel free to check the replay, leave comments. We always appreciate the follow-up comments on the conversation. So please make sure you leave that when you do, and share with your folks. All right. So it's Soundbytes International Radio. You know how we do. We're gonna close out as we do, giving the energy that I am. Brother Bricks, myself, and the brother AJ Throwback. So you know how we do, keeping the energy, keep it tight, keep it locked. We right here at Soundbytes International Radio, y'all.
Yes.
Let's jam out, and let's get into it. You dig? This is what we do.
I walk the face of the earth with a boldness which makes people ask who sent you. I tell them I am. They tell me that's a cute affirmation, but it's not an answer. I reply, listen again. My affirmation is your answer.
It's the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of I am. Handsome chocolate mofo, yeah. Anytime I'm on GoPro, livable high home growth. Living spots with a cold so low. Conditions without morale so low. So I pitched it fast, pitch it slow. Till the cows call home, bro. It didn't make sense. I was told as a child I wouldn't be shit. Revenge on my mind, started flipping the script. They fed me lies, started picking that shit. They treated me different, I embraced that shit. You know the ones that be closest to you, to be the family ties. Sacred bonds, seeing plenty murder, dirty service, ludicrous. Cock up with a dirty burner. But bet I believed in me 1,000%. Bet I achieved what I was saying here to get, and I couldn't resist. Kill these niggas with their toxicness without a popping pistol, monotonous. Told myself I couldn't rock with this. Hanging with goofies couldn't get rich. True blood suckers couldn't see bliss, couldn't see shit. Old face, nigga, they're wrong. I ain't regurgitating, percolating, singing the same song. I'm blessed all day long, lame all day long. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. Fuck nigga, I am.
I'm totally surprised that I ain't lost my mind. Had to take setbacks and learn to with setbacks that those I gave jetpacks that no planes don't fly. Yeah, I'm in no space, so wasting my time. Focus my goals into shit paradigms. My get up and go to keep my folks from dying. So I'm on the road with a goal that's refined. Yeah, riding with a mean vision. Infected from every angle through a clean prison. Doesn't matter if I didn't take the color in gray. When I lost my mother, found peace inside my green. And I leaned in on my brothers. Yeah, Barge was shaping up the grand scheme. I done wrestled to the mat on my damn demons. In a matter of time, became a champion. Now my everyday mantra to do the damn thing. So my aim to pack out every arena, inspire the future leaders with every line of the levers. Of gods and unbelievers, do what they can't conceive us. Know what we do and leave us. Brick, they never see us. Woo! God damn, I'm feeling good, motherfuck. What they say, I'm doing what they never would. Yeah. Get a grasp on your life, yeah. Been many sacrificial prices. Brody, I'm done playing nice, yeah. They're gonna recognize who the nice is. From the north to the southeast, kicking others every lane, share about seats. I'm aligned with it, man. You cannot be. Say anything I won't yet.
This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny that. Hear the proof in the hi-hat. Eternal reflection, I digress. I love me more, never love less. I love me more, never love less. Turn $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Look deep inside, yeah, you be the blessing. $1,000,000 dreams, yeah, how I manifest it. Anything I want, yeah, turn up. This is the power of I am. This is the greatness of I am. Look at the strength that I have. None of the truth can deny the power of
Man, I ain't
I
talking
am.
in terms of I wish, I want to, or even I will anymore. Only things I proclaim, I do, I have, and I am. I do as my ancestors instruct. I have all I need to affect change, and I am a living magnification of God.
Protect our workers. Keep it locked.
I walk the